Nobody drinks till this guy sweats.
Degree Advanced Protection works up to 125 degrees, but be careful, it won't let you down.
Some of the creatures on this list have been well identified for years, while others remain a mystery. Try to imagine how you would react if somehow you found yourself face to face with each of these giants. Or better yet, how would you survive?
Chills.
Number 10. Luis checks the mail. Luis Camacho is getting his mail one sunny day when he suddenly stops and looks around. It's hard to describe, but somehow the two of them hold eye contact, reporting.
To maybe our favorite story of the day. The one that we mentioned at the top of the show. Cue the music. what looks to be a case of real-life X-Files, ladies and gentlemen.
We're learning this morning about a Pentagon program that spent millions of dollars to look into UFO sightings, and ESPN's Tony Reale is so excited he's fidgeting in his seat.
Yeah, you bring in the sports guy for this. You know, I'm all over this story. I told you, not just the X-Files, the XYZ files. That's what you get with me. They're unidentified, they're flying, and they're objects. And the fact that a secret department in the Pentagon thought they were worth millions of dollars of investigation has many wondering if the truth is out there.
Dun, dun, dun.
My gosh! An unidentified flying object.
Look at that thing, dude.
Spotted by 2 Navy fighter pilots flying high above the clouds.
Look at that thing. It's rotating.
These newly released videos from the Department of Defense, published by the New York Times and Washington Post, part of a once secret government program to investigate sightings of so-called anomalous aerial vehicles in the skies. It sounds like a plot out of the X-Files.
The truth is out there.
Or something the Men in Black would zap from your memory.
Flash of light you saw in the sky was not a UFO.
But according to reports in the Washington Post and New York Times, the Department of Defense has spent at least $22 million since 2007 looking into UFO sightings. Former Nevada Senator Harry Reid, who helped secure the funding for the program, telling the New York Times, "I think it's one of the good things I did in my congressional service. I've done something that..." no one has done before. And now, the Pentagon officially acknowledging its Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program for the first time. Telling ABC News they ended the program in 2012 in favor of other higher priority issues that merited funding, but that the DoD takes seriously all threats and potential threats to our people, our assets, and our mission, and takes action whenever credible information is developed. The Pentagon ended funding, but the New York Times reports the program remains in existence and has continued to investigate episodes brought to them by service members, which leads me to ask this question. And you know there's no film and cameras anymore, so don't worry about anybody watching. Do you believe in UFOs, Dan?
I mean, there are definitely unidentified flying objects. Whether there are aliens inside them,
Quite
I don't know.
astute, thank you. Paula?
I believe that there are other beings, but I'm not sure that I believe in aliens.
Ron?
Wait, you really think there's other beings, but you don't
Is it
believe
like-
in aliens?
is it
Well,
like-
I think she said beings, actually.
Beings.
Like, yeah.
No, but not
Beings.
necessarily aliens, but maybe microscopic organisms and that sort of thing. But I'm not sure about an alien.
I just want to know more at this point.
That's what I want to know too.
I
This
think
is the
there's
DoD
some morning
we're
news
talking
flash
about.
going on in a galaxy
Look,
far
there
away.
are aliens, and we'll have them on the set.
If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over.
Hey Ryan, the new LG G7 ThinQ can help you buy some sweet kicks. Cop some fire for your feet, baby. It's an LG.
I get it.
It's really sweet. Give it a shot.
Okay.
scientists finally reveal the truth about the Titanic. On April 14, 1912, at 11:40 p.m., RMS Titanic had a terrible accident that led to its ultimate demise 3 hours later. By 2:20 a.m. in the early morning of April 15th, the biggest ship of its time had completely disappeared under the ice-cold surface of the Atlantic Ocean. The Titanic took more than 1,500 lives with it as it sank to its watery grave. That's more than 2/3 of all the people on board. The cause of this horrible disaster, leading to so many deaths, was an iceberg the ship crashed into. Or so we've always been told. But scientists' most recent findings have debunked this theory. In this video, we'll tell you the whole truth that has been buried for over 100 years. At 882 feet 9 inches long, 92 feet wide, 175 feet tall, and with a usable volume of 46,328 tons, the Titanic seemed indestructible. People could walk for miles along her myriad passages and decks. Even the ship's officers needed over 2 weeks to remember their way around this huge construction. The Titanic had 4 massive smokestacks. Each of them weighed 60 tons, and they extended 81.5 feet above the deck. Such an impressive height was necessary to avoid covering the passengers in 100 tons of soot blown off daily. The smokestacks were placed at a 30-degree angle to look even more astonishing and imposing. No less awe-inspiring was the cost of the ship. Its construction demanded $7.5 million. If we take into account modern exchange rates and inflation, in 2016, they would be paying $166 million. Surprisingly, it would turn out cheaper than the production of the world-famous movie Titanic in 1997, which cost $200 million. Harland and Wolff Shipyard took on 3,000 men to build the ship. Even with a huge labor force working 6 days a week from 6 in the morning, it still took 26 months to complete the monumental task. It was a difficult and dangerous work. Imagine doing something at the height of a 20-story building with no safety ropes. But these people needed money to support their families. The builders got £2 a week, which doesn't sound like much, but it was a competitive wage back then. Unfortunately, 8 people died during the building process, and 246 were injured. So it's really hard to fathom that such a complicated mechanism, with all the work, effort, and money spent on its creation, could just sink because of one iceberg. Well, new findings give us reason to believe that the original cause of the catastrophe was not ice, but fire. Journalist Sana Maloney has been studying the fate of the Titanic for more than 30 years. It was he who discovered a huge 30-foot-long black spot on the hull of the ship. He noticed after examining a photo taken before Titanic's departure. The journalist got hold of an album of previously unpublished photographs that showed the construction of the ship and the preparations for her first and last journey. The fire had to have been burning for 3 weeks at a very high temperature before somebody noticed it. Metallurgy experts are sure that such conditions could have easily weakened the metal, reducing its strength by as much as 75%. That's why the iceberg didn't have any problems tearing a hole in the side of the ship. If not for the fire, it would have been impossible. But the fact that the iceberg hit exactly the spot with the compromised metal is one of the incredible links in the chain of the Titanic's tragic what-ifs. The management of the project knew about the fire and the fact that the ship shouldn't have set off on that fateful voyage. but it would have meant bankruptcy for the ship's owners. The thing is that at the time, miners all over the country were on strike, so there was no coal to sustain the Titanic. But the tickets had already been sold out, and other ships had been canceled since everybody wanted to be the first to sail on the largest ship known to mankind. That's why the owners of the Titanic bought all the coal they could find, and even the coal from other ships. Canceling the trip seemed out of the question. So, to conceal the truth, the ship was turned in such a way that the marks from the fire faced away from the dock. Toward the sea. Therefore, the passengers couldn't see them. Thus, the journey began. The interior of the Titanic was based on that at the Ritz Hotel in London. The grand staircase went down 7 out of the 10 decks on the ship. It was decorated with paintings, a squash court, and a beauty salon. Ladies could even order a stylist to help them get ready for dinner. They had an onboard newspaper called the Atlantic Daily Bulletin. There was even a special place for first-class passengers' dogs. The pets were fed, taken for walks, and could even be trained. During the voyage. The meals for the first class included 13 courses, each with its own wine. They were a big occasion. lasting about 5 hours. There were 1,500 bottles of wine, 20,000 bottles of beer, and 8,000 cigars. Yet, there were no binoculars. Why is this fact worth mentioning? Because having binoculars could have saved the Titanic. Here is another tragic coincidence. The chain of unfortunate events. There were no sonar systems in those times, so to detect threats ahead of a liner, special people kept watch using binoculars. But the binoculars on the Titanic had been locked away in a special compartment. The only person with the key to the locker, Second Officer David Blair, was replaced at the last minute. He was in such a hurry to leave the ship that he forgot to hand the key over to his replacement. This fateful forgetfulness was discovered only 3 days later when the ship was already at sea. If the crew had gotten the binoculars, they would have noticed the iceberg earlier and would have just enough time to avoid the crash. Perhaps the crash could also have been avoided if the ship hadn't been breaking the speed limit. They were falling behind schedule, and this was unacceptable as it could ruin the Titanic's reputation. That's why the ship was moving at a speed much higher than the one it was designed for. Another criminal negligence was connected with the lifeboats. In order to contain all the people on board, the Titanic needed about 60 lifeboats. The chief designer, Alexander Carlisle, planned to equip the ship with only 48 boats, but eventually the number was reduced even more to 20.
Stephen Hawking was born on January 8th of 1942 on the 300th anniversary of Galileo's death. The man was a genius that, although bound to a wheelchair by a strange form of ALS, was able to develop major contributions to the fields of cosmology, general relativity, and quantum gravity, especially in the context of black holes. Eventually, the man lost his ability to use his voice. From there on, he was only able to talk with the help of a computer. But whenever he spoke, the world listened, all the way up until his death on March 14th of 2018, the same date on which Albert Einstein was born. Some say that intelligence can be a curse because it allows individuals to understand the natural world in a better context. The man was in tune with nature and the cosmos. But throughout his career, Stephen had two serious concerns with the future of humanity, concerns that will make your blood run cold. The first deals with human overpopulation, something that at the current rate cannot continue into the next millennium. Hear it in his own words.
One reason is that the Earth is becoming too small for us. In the last 200 years, the growth has become exponential. That is, the population grows by the same percentage each year. Currently, the rate is about 1.9% a year. This may not sound very much, but it means that the world population doubles every 40 years. I will celebrate my 80th birthday in 2022, and in my lifetime, the world's population has quadrupled. This exponential growth cannot continue into the next millennium. By the year 2600, the world's population would be standing shoulder to shoulder, and the electricity consumption would make the Earth glow red hot. This is untenable.
His second warning derives from the massive progress and development of artificial intelligence, that even though these could bring in huge benefits, the effects of a computer emulating the human brain and exceeding it could be catastrophic.
Every aspect of our lives will be transformed. In short, success in creating AI could be the biggest event in the history of our civilization. But it could also be the last, unless we learn how to avoid the risks. Alongside the benefits, AI will also bring dangers, like powerful autonomous weapons, or new ways for the few to oppress the many. It will bring great disruption to our economy. And in the future, AI could develop a will of its own, a will that is in conflict with ours. In short, the rise of powerful AI will be either the best or the worst thing ever to happen to humanity. We do not yet know which. That is why in 2014, I and a few others called for more research to be done in this area.
To help support the future of Gloomy House, consider becoming a patron. You can also find me on Facebook and Twitter by following the links in the description. There, I will be able to answer all of your questions.
Sunday is gloomy. My hours are slumberless.
On September 5th, 1977, NASA launched Voyager 1 from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Almost 4 decades later, that craft is over 12 billion miles from home. Voyager carries a golden record containing a greeting from the people of Earth to the alien life form that may someday find it. On the record is a collection of images and sounds, a short glimpse into the soul of our planet. But since aliens probably wouldn't know what to do with a phonographed record, NASA had to provide a set of instructions on the record cover. But what could they say? How do you begin to communicate with a life form that evolved entirely separately from us? Scientists at NASA had to invent a code that anyone living in the universe might be able to decipher. So to do this, they started with what is by far the most commonly found molecule in the universe: hydrogen. This diagram illustrates the transition between the two lowest states of hydrogen. Any spacefaring civilization will probably understand the properties of hydrogen enough to know that when this transition happens, radiation is released, with a definite wave period. In human terms, we say this period is about 0.7 nanoseconds. This wave period is used as the basic unit of measurement for the rest of the diagrams on the cover. These are the instructions on how to make the record work. Assuming aliens wouldn't have record players like we do, NASA included one on the craft, with the needle already in place. These markings are binary code that define the speed you need to turn the record to get it to play correctly. Translated, we get over 5.1 billion hydrogen transition wave periods, or about 3.6 seconds per rotation. At this speed, you would begin to hear greetings in 55 different languages.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
This would be followed by music and sounds from Earth, like a train in motion, crickets chirping, fire crackling, laughter, and a baby crying. This section explains how images can be pieced together from recorded signals. A replica of the first image on the recording is shown here, so the viewer can verify they decoded the signals correctly. In total, there are 116 images on the record. They show our solar system, our planet, and ourselves. Without much to erode it in space, the golden record is estimated to survive for 1 billion years, traveling aimlessly through the Milky Way. It's impossible to say whether Voyager or its twin, Voyager 2, will ever be found and retrieved by another life form. But, as Carl Sagan, who chaired the Golden Record Project, put it would be impolite not to say hello.
And now for the rings.
I'm a 4-year-old ring bearer with a bad habit of swallowing stuff. And if you don't have the right coverage, you could be paying for that price you love bad yourself. So get an Allstate agent and be better protected from mayhem like me.
The early 80s were a very different time. Crazy hair, crazy clothes. We didn't know we were headed towards a planet-wide disaster. Oh yeah, that's right. We were headed towards a planet-wide disaster. And if nothing had been done about it, this is what the world would have become in 2065. Crops failing, livestock farming failing, aquaculture failing, and cancer rates through the roof. Step outdoors in Washington, D.C., and you'll get a severe sunburn in 5 minutes. Lucky for us, NASA had our backs. NASA might be famous for exploring space, but that's not its only job. The agency studies Earth, too. They help track how our environment works and catch if something goes wrong. And in 1985, things indeed had gone terribly wrong. Teams of scientists from NASA and the British Antarctic Survey discovered a severely damaged section of Earth's ozone layer over Antarctica. Here's why that's a problem. The ozone layer is a region in the stratosphere that absorbs harmful UV light from the sun. It's basically our planet's natural sunscreen, and it had grown extremely thin over Antarctica. So the ozone hole, as it became known, was absorbing less UV light than normal. In fact, from September through November of that year, the ozone levels in the hole dropped by up to 67%. That's like if you only used a third of the sunscreen you were supposed to before going to the beach. Thankfully, NASA had a pretty good idea of what was happening. For years prior, scientists had been sounding the alarm on chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs for short. They were common in products like aerosol sprays and refrigerators and were chosen specifically because they were non-toxic to humans. But scientists soon discovered that just didn't matter because these molecules were extremely toxic to the ozone layer. Turns out when UV light hits a CFC molecule, it releases a chlorine atom which basically goes on a killing spree to celebrate, turning ozone molecules into oxygen, which are basically worthless when it comes to protecting your planet from UV radiation. One chlorine atom, for instance, can destroy over 100,000 ozone molecules before it finally binds with another molecule and becomes inert. And the worst part is that chlorine atoms are especially destructive to the ozone in cold temperatures. You know what else is cold? Antarctica. But if CFCs continued to go on unchecked, cold regions wouldn't be the only casualty. By 2020, 17% would be gone worldwide and a similar ozone hole would form over the Arctic. By 2040, 70% would be gone. By 2050, after the poles, the tropics begin to lose their ozone layer completely. And by 2065, we're doomed. UV radiation levels on Earth's surface double, which sparks all sorts of problems.
If that UV were coming all the way to the surface, we would get skin cancer, we would have cataracts on our eyes, animals would get cataracts, our crops would die. So life on Earth as we know it, and life for humans, really wouldn't be possible. It sounds like some kind of a horrible Hollywood disaster movie, I think, that we would have been in for. I mean, it sounds very extreme, apocalyptic consequences, but really, we might have been.
Obviously, none of that happened. That's because scientists across the world banded together. The Montreal Protocol was signed in 1987, lowering production of harmful CFCs.
The policymakers listened to science, they were informed by science, and they made a great decision. They said, we care, we're gonna try to come up with a treaty that solves these problems, and it worked.
By 1996, CFCs were banned completely in developed countries. Now there are signs that the ozone is recovering and could be completely healed by the end of the century. So it looks like the world won't crumble by 2065 anymore. Well, at least not from a depleted ozone layer.
Welcome to TTI. Welcome to a whole new world of planet science. One day, the Earth will be destroyed completely. Where will you go? How will you survive? Well, don't worry because we humans found some new Earth-like planets as a backup plan, where we can live, or at least be able to survive.
Number 10.
Kepler 438b. The exoplanet Kepler 438 b was first discovered in 2015 and located 470 light years away. Kepler 438b was deemed one of the most Earth-like planets ever discovered due to its Earth Similarity Index, or ESI, which is 88% similar to Earth, hence making it a suitable candidate for the potential of life. Kepler 438b is just 12% larger and receives 40% more light compared to the Earth, but still, it's missing some necessary qualities for habitation, such as it doesn't have a proper atmosphere, and the planet's nearby star emits flares 10 times more powerful than our sun. This planet might be the second option if it has a magnetic field like our planet.
Number 9.
Kepler 452b. Kepler 452b was first discovered in July 2015, which is an exoplanet and also known as Super-Earth. Moreover, Kepler 452b is around 5 times the mass of Earth. It completes a full orbit in 385 days. But due to its large size, it also has twice the gravity compared to Earth and receives more sun energy, making it hotter than Earth. But still, it's a good candidate for hosting life if we're ever able to reach Kepler 452b. Unfortunately, this planet is 45,000 light years away, which means if we travel in a spaceship at a speed of 37,000 miles per hour, then 26 million years is needed to get there. Well, then cryogenic preservation and age-reversing agent will be mandatory requirements for this journey. Although 452b mirrors Earth, but it is highly susceptible to the greenhouse effect, so it could become a giant ball of hot death by the time we arrive there. Be careful.
Number 8.
Proxima b. Proxima b is an exoplanet which is 4.2 light years away from the Earth and first discovered in August 2016. Proxima b orbits the habitable zone of a red dwarf star named Proxima Centauri and has the potential for survivable living conditions due to the presence of water. This exoplanet is actually 30% bigger than the Earth, and its 1 year is equal to 11 days, which means means you'll be having birthday parties a lot more often. So many birthday gifts. Although it has an Earth Similarities Index, or ESI, of 0.87, still, it has some significant downsides, such as it receives only 2% of light from its nearby sun, and there are violent stellar winds that are 2,000 times stronger than those on Earth.
Number 7.
Kepler 186f. Kepler 186f is an exoplanet discovered by the Kepler Space Observatory in April 2014. This rocky planet orbits near the outer rim of its sun habitable zone and nearly 10% bigger than Earth and almost has similar radius, but it is 500 light years away from us. And its 1 year consists of a total of 130 days, having an Earth Similarity Index of 0.61. And only receives 33% of sunlight compared to Earth. That means its brightest day will be similar to evening time on the Earth. Kepler 186f rotates much more slowly than Earth, so its day could be weeks or months long. 186f may be tidally locked, which means one side of the planet is always facing its star and the other is in constant darkness. The gravity on Kepler 186f could be very similar to Earth's, and there is some possibility that it has an atmosphere that can help keep the water in liquid form. That's why scientists have described Kepler 186f as a cousin to Earth.
Number 6.
Kepler 62f. This planet is also known as Super Earth and discovered in April 2013. Kepler 62f is situated in the habitable zone of a 7 billion year old star. 62f has Earth Similarity Index of 0.
Hi, I'm Beck.
0.67 and is 1.4 times of Earth, having slightly smaller and cooler than our sun. Unfortunately, this rocky planet is Earth-like water world, which contains oceans, or at least ice. In either case, this planet is an excellent candidate for alien life and feasible for hosting human life. 62f takes 267 days to complete a full orbit around. Sun and receives 41% of the sunlight compared to Earth. However, the planet might be tidally locked in orbit, which means one side facing the hot sun while the other will be in complete darkness. So humans can only survive at the border between light and dark area, where the temperature is suitable to support life.
Number 5.
Gliese 667 CC. This planet is Mars's cousin, and you can see all of the suns. In fact, it's a part of the upper-mentioned 3 star system, which is 23.6 light years away from us. It's 3.8 times the size of Earth, has a rocky surface, and it has 85% similarity to Earth. It's on the slightly hot edge of the habitable zone, with temperatures ranging in 254.3 Kelvin. Or negative 18.8 degrees Celsius, and it receives 90% of the light of Earth. One side is completely shrouded in eternal darkness, while the other is continuously facing towards the red dwarf. It's believed that between these hemispheres, there is a probable chance to get an area of suitable temperature that will support human life.
Number 4.
Kepler-62e. It's 1.6 times larger than Earth, has a rocky surface with a high probability of water, and may be covered with oceans. Its 1 year is 122 days long and 1,200 light years away from us. Just a side note, all planets in this list are larger than Earth, and that's why they are called super-Earths, which means they are larger than our planet, would have similar characteristics that an exoplanet has. Cloudy sky, warm and humid everywhere other than the polar caps. And its stellar flux is 20% more than Earth, enough to trigger a runaway greenhouse effect, which can decrease the chance of habitability.
Number 3.
Gliese 581G. Gliese 581G is also known as Zarmina. Which is 20 light years away from Earth, discovered by astronomer Stephen Vogt in 2010. Its 1 year lasts for 67 days, but unfortunately, this planet is tidally locked with the sun. If a strong atmosphere exists on the planet, it could circulate the heat from the sunny side over to the dark side, making it much more habitable. Hence, it is possible for water to exist there, with at least one ocean. Gliese 581G is 1.5 times the size of Earth, having temperatures between negative 35 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit due to the weaker energy output from its small sun. All these features increase the chances of life on 581G up to 100%, which is an extremely optimistic presumption.
Number 2.
Kepler-22b. Kepler-22b is an exoplanet that orbits in the inner edge of the sun's habitable zone, which is 600 light years away from us, and discovered in December 2011. Kepler-22b is twice the size of Earth and has a year of 290 days, with a temperature of negative 11 degrees Celsius in the worst case, while 22 degrees Celsius in the best case. So it's reasonable for humanity to survive here, but it won't be a similar experience to Earth. 22b's outer shell is likely to be composed mostly of either liquid or gas, and the most optimistic estimate is that it's liquid water combined with the greenhouse-affected atmosphere. It likely keeps the planet at suitable temperatures. Gas, and the most optimistic estimate is that it's liquid water combined with the greenhouse-affected atmosphere. It likely keeps the planet at suitable temperatures. If something happens to Earth, this water-rich planet is the place where we will probably move to, because it's a prime contender for our next homeworld. When we arrive there in the future, there is a high possibility that we will be encountered by a lot of possible alien lives that may have evolved in the outer liquid layer.
Number 1.
Mars. Okay, you knew this. Honestly speaking, we humans have limited time and limited technology to find a suitable home planet that is far away from us. It makes sense to look next door. Mars could be the next permanent home for us, and we may be able to see it happen in our lifetime. Definitely this red planet could be a great candidate for life, with its ancient water-rich soil, sufficient amount of sunlight, and a similar day length that is only 40 minutes longer than Earth. Mars' gravity is 38% weaker compared to the Earth, but still within the acceptable range for us to survive. There are high chances to successfully terraform Mars because of its thin atmosphere that already protects the planet from the sun's radiation, could hold oxygen, and become breathable. Companies like SpaceX are currently training teams of astronaut settlers for colonizing Mars, with the first group blasting off in 2031. We could literally see homes on Mars in our very near future. Thanks for watching. Which planet did you find the most impressive?
How fast can you divide 673 by 9? Well, Scott Flansburgh has already done it. He holds the Guinness World Record for the fastest human calculator, and he's here to talk about the American Math Challenge. But first, we're going to challenge him a bit ourselves.
All right.
We'll let you prove a little bit.
The wrong foot when it comes to math. They have a bad experience very young. Maybe they had to go up to the board and figure something out in front of all their friends, and they didn't get it right. And then from that moment on, they've decided, as soon as I don't have...
That's sad if you can't whistle, but good because I can't whistle. What's whistling anyway? You put your lips together and blow. Like this.
Outer space is freaky enough as it is. However, there are some radio waves that certain celestial bodies produce that, when converted to something we can hear, makes for some very creepy background music. In this video, I managed to find 7 extremely eerie sounds that space has produced. Now, let's get started. Number 7. The sounds of Saturn. Let's start with one of the creepiest sounds. The music that our most beautiful planet in the solar system, Saturn, produces. It shouldn't come to a surprise that our most mysterious looking planet produces very mysterious sounds. Most of this actually comes from Saturn's rings, forever colliding with one another. Number 6. The sound of Earth.
History is full of decisions, but if they had gone a different way, could have given us quite a different outcome today. And space history certainly has its fair share of those.
Curious Freud.
As part of NASA's quest for a replacement space shuttle, it embarked on a project that looked as if it could bring a groundbreaking combination of technologies that would make the original space shuttle look like a 1970s trim phone compared to an iPhone X. But in a decision that was as dogmatic as it was controversial, the project was cancelled when 95% of the components had been fabricated, tested, delivered, and even a new launch facility had been built. The project was the X-33 and was revolutionary on many fronts. It was designed to be fully reusable like a plane. It would be much cleaner than the shuttle, as it would only use hydrogen and oxygen for both the main engines as well as the thrusters, and wouldn't use any solid rocket boosters. It could be remotely controlled and take off vertically and land on a normal runway, much like the space shuttle. But unlike the shuttle, it was designed to be easy to maintain and dramatically cut the amount of time, resources and people required to launch and then turn it around for the next flight, and thus cut the cost of getting each kilogram of payload into space from $20,000 to $2,000.
Hodge's location is unknown. Operation.
Yo, what is going on, guys? Hody here, coming at you guys with the brand new video. And in this video.
Exactly. My hero just got kidnapped. I have to pay 10 million gold to bail her
What?
out. That's insane.
What happened to all your gold?
I kind of spent it to buy more troops last week, but I have 200,000 fighters now.
Oh, well then attack him and get your hero back.
And kidnap his hero.
No, he has 430,000 troops.
Oh, he's still outnumbered.
Well, I have 300,000.
Really? Let's go for it.
Let's get him.
Yeah, we got it.
We're back with some more Fortnite. In today's video, I got an amazing couple games for you. We're doing it a little bit different. We're showing 2 games of 50 versus 50, and it's about 2 versus 20 each time. Me and Cypher PK go on a mission to take out everybody. If you guys don't know Cypher PK, make sure to check out the description for his links. He's an amazing player. Reminder that the free download link for Fortnite is in the description down below. These games that we're about to get into are absolute madness. It's a new thing that me and my friends are starting to do. We basically queue up in the 50 versus 50. We loot in the beginning and stay away from everybody, hoping that our team gets destroyed. I know, it sounds a little messed up, but it creates that 2 or 4 people versus everyone left, and it just becomes absolute chaos. And I think you guys are really gonna enjoy these games. I don't think there's that many people doing this, so it's gonna be something new to see. Make sure to thumbs up and share this if you guys wanna see more like this. And as always, let's get dangerous. Hope you guys enjoy.
We gotta still keep moving, I think.
Yeah, I'm moving.
From where you're at.
I'm just hitting rocks real quick.
Here, I'm gonna get us a hiding spot right here.
You hiding there?
Yeah, get over here. Come here.
Okay.
Once you have enough materials, get in here.
Let me farm this real quick. Okay, we should
Being
get
shot at.
Oh, this isn't good. We might want to push.
Yeah, our entire team. Yeah, you know we should wrap around because our entire team is backed up against the wall right here.